There is a war happening right now, a silent, invisible, but brutal war. It is not about physical battles or conflicts between nations. It is an attack on your soul. With every decision you make, with every choice that seems to be yours, there are forces at work shaping your thoughts, directing your desires, and making you believe you are in control. Schopenhauer said that human life is dominated by a blind and irrational force, the will. To him, we are condemned to desire, seek, and suffer, often without realizing that we are trapped in cycles of illusion. On the other hand, Ralph Waldo Emerson believed in the individual's ability to transcend these impositions, to live from an internal source of truth and authenticity. If Schopenhauer speaks of the dangers of servitude to the will, Emerson offers us a way out: self-sufficiency, independent thinking, and the courage to be who we truly are. But the problem is that we are surrounded by constant stimuli, social media, trends, other people's opinions that obscure our own inner voice. How do we know if what we desire truly comes from within us, or if it was implanted by a system that wants us obedient and predictable? How do we avoid being swallowed by this invisible tide that turns us into mere products of a system that robs us of our individuality? If you feel that your identity is dissolving in the midst of all this, that your desires are no longer truly yours, that there is a restlessness you cannot explain, you are already in the middle of this war. We live in a time when it has never been easier to lose our own identity. Surrounded by brands, trends, and social pressures, we are constantly bombarded with stimuli telling us what we should desire, how we should behave, and even who we should be. Self-knowledge, which should be a natural and internal process, becomes a confusing search, tainted by external expectations that we don't always notice. Think about the last time you opened a social media app. You scrolled through the screen without realizing how much time had passed, exposed to an endless stream of information. Between one video and another, you saw someone with an idealized body, a perfect life, an opinion that seemed unquestionable. Without noticing, you compared yourself. Maybe you felt the need to change your appearance, adopt a new routine, by something you had never wanted before. And then you moved on, unaware that, in that moment, a fragment of your identity had been diluted. We choose careers influenced by what is socially valued. We shape opinions based on what surrounds us. We create habits that we never question. And when we finally realize it, we are already living a life that may never have truly been ours. We desire, we seek, we delude ourselves, and we suffer, repeating this cycle without realizing that we are trapped in it. Our sense of identity, instead of being something authentic, becomes a reflection of everything we absorb from the outside world. However, there is a way of life based on self-trust, on rejecting impositions, and on seeking an inner truth. This is what Emerson refers to as, if everything around us tries to shape us, how do we escape this invisible influence? For Ralph Waldo Emerson, the answer lies within each individual. To him, true freedom does not come from following a safe path or pleasing others, but from trusting one's own intuition, regardless of external pressures. Being self-sufficient does not mean living in isolation, but rather living with authenticity, listening to one's own voice before bowing to the expectations of others. This is a concept that challenges the way society operates. From an early age, we learn to seek validation. We make choices that seem safe because they have been approved by someone, parents, friends, teachers, modern gurus, who tell us how to live. And the more we follow this path, the harder it becomes to distinguish our true desires from what we have simply absorbed from our surroundings. This conformity weakens us, making us dependent on approval. Think about how many decisions in your life were made out of fear of disappointing someone. Choosing a respectable profession, staying in a relationship without purpose, acting a certain way to avoid criticism. All of this distances you from your essence. The strength of an individual comes from the ability to listen to oneself, even when it means going against the world around them. Greatness resides in the one who, amidst the crowd, maintains the independence of solitude, Emerson wrote. Society trains us to depend on others. At every moment, we are encouraged to follow implicit rules, to fit into labels, to seek acceptance. And when someone dares to break away from this, judgment is immediate. Those who dare to think for themselves will be seen as arrogant, irresponsible, reckless. The need to belong and the pressure to conform make many give up before they even try. Schopenhauer argued that our will to act rarely comes from rational and conscious thought. We are driven by impulses, by instinctive desires that we believe to be our own, but are actually just reflections of a larger mechanism. We are merely reacting to the world without truly taking control of our lives. The antidote, awareness. Although we are influenced, we have the ability to develop discernment and choose our own path. But being self-sufficient does not mean simply rejecting everything that comes from the outside. It is about learning to filter. Not every tradition is bad, and not every external opinion should be ignored. The challenge is to recognize which influences strengthen us, and which merely make us repeat meaningless patterns. It is the balance between learning from the world and, at the same time, not becoming its slave. But how do we distinguish our own voice amidst the constant noise of the world? From an early age, you were taught that you must find certainties, establish firm opinions, and maintain consistency in your choices. Change, on the other hand, was imposed as a sign of weakness or indecision. But does that really make sense? Ralph rejected this idea of blind consistency. To him, the greatness of an individual lies in the ability to abandon old beliefs when they no longer make sense. After all, growth means challenging what we once believed to be true. Someone who, since childhood, has learned that success is tied to a stable career will follow exactly that path. College, a secure job, professional growth. But at some point, discomfort arises a void that cannot be filled by a higher salary or a promotion. This person begins to realize that perhaps their choices were based more on external expectations than on their true desires. But changing now seems impossible. The fear of criticism, insecurity, and the unknown keeps them stuck on a path that no longer makes sense. The idea of changing our minds or our life's direction terrifies us, because we have been conditioned to believe that it makes us inconsistent or weak. But insisting on a belief merely for convenience is to deny our own evolution. There is no merit in clinging to an idea just because we held it in the past. This is a reflection of our irrational nature. Human beings are guided by unconscious impulses, and the belief in our own rationality is often an illusion. Schopenhauer argued that our ideas and convictions are not freely chosen in most cases. We simply hold on to what gives us a sense of security. To question means to face this uncomfortable truth, that much of what we defend may just be a construction to make us feel in control. If we do not have the courage to examine our beliefs, we risk spending our entire lives trapped in outdated ideas, repeating patterns that no longer make sense. But questioning requires humility, the willingness to acknowledge that we might be wrong, that we may need to rebuild our certainties from the ground up. Are you left-wing or right-wing? Religious or atheist? Minimalist or consumerist? These labels give a false sense of belonging and security, but at a cost: the loss of individuality. When we conform to a group without questioning, we stop thinking for ourselves. We become predictable, we repeat prepackaged narratives, and without realizing it, we give up our own essence. How many times have you silenced a doubt or a personal thought for fear of contradicting the group you belong to? I'm sure you've held back an opinion because you knew it wouldn't be well received. Or perhaps you've adopted certain beliefs simply because they were shared by those around you. This is the danger of conformity. It makes us prisoners of the fear of rejection. For Schopenhauer, most people do not seek the truth, but rather acceptance. Public opinion is a second conscience for those who have none, he wrote. The human tendency is to follow the easier path, accepting ready-made ideas, absorbing values without reflection, and avoiding the discomfort of independent thinking. Having the courage to break free from these chains shows that an individual's true worth lies in their ability to be authentic, even if it means going against social expectations. Conforming to a group is not the same as belonging to something greater. The former is a prison disguised as security. The latter is a choice of connection without losing one's identity. The problem is that society rewards conformity. The world encourages us to think collectively, to belong to tribes, to follow trends. The pressure to fit in causes many to give up their individuality without even realizing it. But the truth is that those who truly make a difference are the ones who dare to be different. Recognizing the world's influence on our choices is only the first step. The next challenge is learning to trust our own intuition, develop discernment, and live authentically. But how can we do this in a world that constantly pushes us toward conformity? It is necessary to cultivate 3 essential habits. Trust your instincts, embrace change, and reject labels. Consider this situation. You are with a group of friends, and a controversial topic comes up. You feel that your opinion differs from the majority, but you hesitate to speak. Doubt arises. Is it worth disagreeing? The natural tendency is to remain silent, go with the flow, and avoid discomfort. But this is precisely the kind of moment where authenticity is tested. Self-sufficiency does not mean being against everything and everyone, but rather not betraying your own conscience just to fit in. True self-sufficiency is not empty rebellion, but listening to one's own truth. This means constantly questioning, does this choice come from me, or is it merely a reflection of what is expected of me? It means accepting that growth involves letting go of old ideas without fear of appearing inconsistent. And, above all, it means understanding that living authentically can be uncomfortable, but the alternative. Living a life that is not truly yours is a far greater price to pay. In the end, the question is not just how to resist the silent war against your soul, but how to ensure that, when it is over, you are still yourself. This war does not happen in obvious ways. It infiltrates small moments, seemingly harmless choices, opinions you absorb without questioning. The problem is not just external influence, but how much we allow that influence to define us. If you don't decide who you truly are, the world will decide for you. If you enjoyed this content and want to explore more about life's deeper questions, subscribe to the channel and share this video with others who are also among the awakened.